gotta say, I was not expecting the blacklight cave. Hello and welcome to Make a Little. My name is Taylor and I'm a Seattle-based fiber artist on a quest to make a little art every day. And today we're going to talk all things Seattle Flock and Fiber Festival. So like I mentioned in my intro, I am based in Seattle and this is arguably the biggest kind of yarn fiber arts festival that Seattle has. It happens to be this Sunday. I am recording this on Friday, and I figured I'd kind of take you through my entire experience at the festival. So for full disclosure, I have actually never been to Seattle Flock and Fiber Festival, but I have been to the Oregon Flock and Fiber Festival. My partner and I took a road trip down to Oregon, and we actually ended up staying on a farm that was owned by one of the yarn dyers at the festival, which was very, very cool. We were actually staying in a sheep herder's wagon on her farm property, and it was a total blast. We had a ton of fun. But that was my very first kind of yarn festival, and since then I think I have learned a lot about going to festivals. I've learned a lot about how to prepare for festivals, and I figured, why not have you come along while I prepare and talk about how I think about preparing for festivals, go to the festival, and then of course, if I end up buying anything, having a little haul at the end so you can see what I picked up while I was there. What do I need to do to have a good time at the festival? And some of these I think are really like obvious, but the first time that I went, I didn't do any of these and I really regretted it. So I think even if it feels very obvious to you, this is just a quick reminder. Number one, always bring water with you. You know, you're going to be on your feet for quite some time. Same sort of thing with comfy shoes. You know, you might want to bring a snack because festival food can be extremely expensive. And just make sure that, you know, sort of your basic needs are met. I think a lot of times people don't really realize how much standing and walking and moving there is you need to be doing when you're at a festival. So I think it's really important to remember to take into account your own personal needs as you're going to be there for a while. And especially with a festival like Flock, where you're actually paying for your ticket, it seems like it would feel kind of bad to get there and only really be able to stay there for a couple of hours because you just didn't have, you know, enough water with you or comfy enough shoes to keep enjoying the festival. So that's a big one I like to think of. And then the other component of sort of preparing for a festival for me is making sure that I have a project at a place where I can kind of work on it without paying too much attention to it. So it's a fiber festival, and you're gonna have downtime. I actually love that it seems like it's very common at fiber festivals that creators kind of end up getting together and sort of working at picnic tables or at the food court or just sort of on park benches on their projects, and they just have kind of an opportunity to work together in person. I'm actually going to be meeting two friends at Flock, so I imagine there may be some downtime where we're going to have some time to just kind of knit or crochet or work on whatever it is that we're working on. So I have two candidates, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I kind of think I might bring both of them just in case. If you watched my last video, you'll recognize both of these projects, but they are a little bigger now. So the first one is the Planet Sweater by Laura Delgard. I just started the second sleeve today. So this is at a point in time where it's very easy for me to just pick this up, put it down, not really think too much about where I am in the pattern, because it's very easy to just quickly reference whenever I'm picking it up. The second one, and I'm really excited about this one, is, grab it on my desk over here. This is the Melting Shirt. So it's not going to look like very much, honestly, but I'm really, really happy with how this project has been going. This is what I have done so far. It's kind of hard to tell what this is, but let me see if I can show you the right side, which will help. So this is actually the back of the shirt. You've got these pieces here that sort of form the back of the neckline. And then this is the back panel. There's this little, they call it, I think, a weft in the pattern, where there's sort of like this design element. kind of hard to see on camera, but it's like it slightly protrudes out. You actually pick up stitches on both sides and then sort of form this tube. And then I have to knit the full back panel. So I am at a point in this pattern where there's just like 25, 30 rows of just stockinette. No increases, no decreases, nothing. And so I actually figured that one will be really easy to just pick up and put down as well, especially because there is something I would really like to pick up at this fiber festival that would make that one much easier to do kind of on the fly. So that is how I'm preparing. That is sort of the nuts and bolts logistics of how I am preparing for the festival. The next big sort of bucket that I like to think about when it comes to festivals is, what am I actually looking to purchase? Because the first time I went into a fiber festival, it was like my brain turned off. I was frantically looking at Ravelry every time I saw yarn that I liked, or I was just buying something because I thought, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And it was not a very calculated endeavor. It ended up leading to purchases that I didn't really need and found myself kind of bewildered with after I had come home. I ended up spending a lot more money than I had planned on spending, and it just all around kind of was a less enjoyable experience than I think I went in with a very specific mission. So we're going to talk about what is my particular mission for this fiber festival. And honestly, my biggest mission is just to go and talk to more fiber artists. Like, that is the most exciting part for me about festivals at this point in time. I have a lot of yarn, and while there are a couple of offerings that could potentially tempt me in the yarn category to consider purchasing something, most of what I'm focused on this festival is going to be more in like the notions category. Because there is a notion that I have not ever had, and I think now is the time, and that is a row counter. I count my rows in a variety of different ways. I have like a, notes app note that sometimes I use to just put in a number if I'm putting a project down. I sometimes will just repeat the number in my head like 85 times and hope that I just remember it when I pick up the project in a couple days. I sometimes will knit like 2 stitches to indicate I'm on a second row, for example, if I'm in the middle of a repeat, but it's getting kind of untenable, and I think it would be so much easier to just use a row counter. And while I could make one, and I have considered doing that because row counters can be very expensive, I figure I would really love to support like a local maker who has made row counters. And that kind of transitions into someone that I know will be at Flock this year that I would love to kind of stop by their booth. And that is the person behind the YouTube channel M to the Third. They've announced that they will be at this festival, and they will be selling row counters and stickers. And I really would love to stop by their booth. I love their content. I think they have such beautiful like B-roll in their backyard, and they are an incredibly technically skilled knitter. Their projects look amazing, and I know they work for Yarn Store, and they are from Portland, but like I have so many friends from Portland, it almost sort of feels like my second hometown. So I would really love the opportunity to get to peruse her wares and just see her, and I'm hoping she's going to bring some of her work or something so that I can have the opportunity to see it in person. So that is super exciting. But a row counter is like my number one thing that I want to find. And maybe I'll buy one of them to the thirds. To be perfectly honest, I think they're all Kewpie themed, and like Kewpies are cute, but they're really not my vibe. So I don't know if any of them would speak to me particularly, but I would really love to support her booth. So I'm really hoping to make it over there. I'm going to do my best to resist buying yarn. I know there's a very good chance that I'm going to convince myself, I'm going to look at my budget and convince myself that I should pick up a sweater's quantity of something that maybe will just sort of fall into my lap while I'm there, but I'm trying to be very, very intentional about that. So I really do not want to buy a sweater's quantity of orange or green. any green, especially like lemongrass green, because I feel like a lot of my stash are those two colors. So unless it has a different color than orange or green, I'm gonna try very hard not to buy it. The goal is to go in with like the camera as my eyes, as opposed to my wallet as my way to experience this festival, but we'll see. I am not taking any classes at Flock. I would have loved to, but I just sort of bought my tickets super late, and I'm only going to Sunday. Personally, unless I had like a very specific person or thing that I was trying to see, I don't necessarily think it's worth it to buy both days of a festival or a couple days worth of tickets for festivals, because it is really like a market first and foremost. And so that's another way that I just make sure I don't overspend. I don't want there to be an opportunity for me to go back and buy more yarn. So we are just sticking to the one day. I will be there on Sunday, and that's gonna be super fun. And then finally, my nails are really long right now, and I would really love to paint my nails before the festival because it just seems like a fun excuse to do it. And my bangs are getting very, very long, so I really need to trim them before the festival so that I can actually have some bangs as opposed to whatever it is that they've grown out to right now. So that's just little stuff. I don't have a ton of opportunity to fully dress in my preferred style of clothing, for example, just because I work and I work in a really professional setting where I can't just be wearing like super crazy graphic patterns and bold things. And I feel like this is an opportunity to really get to embrace my style, embrace color, embrace creativity. And so I'm really looking forward to kind of prioritizing that for the festival as well. So with all of that, we are going to get started on preparations, probably put together a bag and cut my bangs. And yeah, let's get ready for this festival. It is officially the day of the Flock and Fiber Festival. Again, this is just the Sunday. I'm only going to one day this year. As you can see, I am holding my lapel mic, and that is because I am wearing the Uma sweater today. I am so excited. Seattle really came in clutch, and I think the high today is 70. There might even be some rain, so it is cold enough to wear this sweater, and that makes me extremely excited. As you can see, I have officially connected up the sleeves for the Planet sweater, so this thing is massive right now. Let me give you some closer looks at this. Yeah, I unexpectedly made quite a bit of progress on that sweater in the last couple of days, so it's way too big to bring as a project to the festival, which means we are locked in with the melting shirt. Also, because I'm not bringing the Planet sweater, that means I can actually bring my tiny little backpack instead of like a big over the shoulder bag, and I think that's going to help just like cut down on me buying random yarn because I hate carrying things around. And I'm really glad that I get to use the backpack because honestly, while I love a tote bag moment, this is a 6-hour long marketplace, and if I'm here for the entire time, which I figured I might as well be since I bought the ticket, it's nice to have that like weight distributed over my shoulders. So I am also excited to say that I did trim my bangs. I actually think they look really good. I'm very happy with it. This is the first time I've ever cut my own bangs. I think I was such an insane rule follower as a kid that sometimes I forget that I have free will. So that's something I've been working on a lot lately. And I also painted my nails. You can see they're like little French tips of orange and green. Go figure. I really love them. I think they kind of look like pimento olives. I'll show you the full fit in a second, but we are quite colorful and I'm very, very happy about it. So we'll head out to the festival. And with that, Seattle Flock and Fiber Festival is done. What a beautiful festival. I had a really great time. I always really love the energy at fiber festivals, and I did end up picking up a couple of things. I'm going to be very transparent with you about prices and everything else and kind of talk you through it. I do also want to preface, I didn't end up spending a ton of money at this. I spent more than I thought I was going to, but I still feel like it's important to preface with these sorts of like festival halls that you don't need to spend a lot of money, or honestly any money outside of the ticket to get in, I guess, to enjoy yourself at these festivals. I ended up meeting up with two of my friends while I was there, and one person spent quite a bit more than me, and one person spent less than me. And all three of us had a really, really fun time. There are plenty of things to do besides just spending money at these festivals. I really loved the opportunity to touch a bunch of different wool types of yarn while I was there. That was really cool. My friend who is really into spinning was able to pick up a bunch of fiber for her own yarn creation. And I just loved hearing her talk about what she was interested in and what was particularly catching her eye, because I don't really know anything about the sort of spinning universe. And it's also just so fun to see people wearing patterns that you've seen online or patterns that you've never seen before. You can then go ask them, what they are, and just seeing so many people loving this community. Every fiber festival I've been to has had some kind of like a seating area where people can just sit down and knit and talk to each other. There were actually a couple of really cool ones at this convention center. So there was the actual stage where they were having some talks, and I caught a couple of snippets of a few. I didn't actually sit down for a dedicated talk, but there was also sort of like almost a food court area where you could also sit, where there was plenty of space to knit. And then if you have seen any of like Sari Nordland's posts or anyone, then you have probably seen the very iconic convention stairs where people could go and sit at the stairs. And I gotta say, one of my friends and I did end up going and sitting at those stairs for a couple of hours, and it was awesome. It was so fun. I also just really love how welcoming people are at fiber festivals. I had multiple people come up to me to say they really liked my sweater. I complimented multiple people's outfits. And everybody just kind of came together to talk about fiber arts. It was really cool. I also, and I can't even believe this, but I promise it happened. I had the first person ever come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I watch you on YouTube." And they were like the sweetest person in the entire world. I'm so sorry. I wish I would have gotten your name because that would have been great. But honestly, I was so overwhelmed and flabbergasted that somebody would know who I was. That was just so special. So thank you so much for coming up to me and saying hi. I really, really appreciated it. And my friend that was with me was giving me a little bit of a hard time. She's like, "Oh, I guess you're famous now." But yeah, it was so sweet. It was so sweet. I had an absolute blast. I have to say, just sort of like a tip for people that get a little overwhelmed with like large crowds of people, because I I know I come off as very, I don't know, talkative and extroverted. I am actually quite shy and I can get really kind of overstimulated or overwhelmed by these sorts of events. But I really recommend going on the Sunday, on the second day. Um, you sort of avoid a lot of the kind of like frenzied feeling. I know personally for me, I can get really caught up in the sort of like limited edition or like drop mania in the moment, and then I always end up regretting it if I'm buying something limited edition. So by the time Sunday rolls around, a lot of the limited editions are already sold out. A lot of the like big hyped up stuff is kind of gone. So you don't even really have to combat the feelings of feeling left out. Like it's already over. And a lot of times I wouldn't have even known that there was a limited edition except for I saw somebody else a week later where it would have already been too late for me to grab it. So that was awesome. It really stopped a lot of like impulse purchases. But I won't lie, I did make an impulse purchase at the very end of this market after looking through all of these booths multiple times. But let's get into it. First, let's talk about the things that I succeeded at doing. I did go and see M to the Third's booth and their partner, Kay. I am so sorry. For some reason, I remember your partner's name and not your actual name, but she was so sweet and so kind and like just so warm and open in person. We chatted for a little bit and it meant a ton to me. And her booth was so fun. I did end up picking up a sticker from her. It says Granny Squares on it. Really, really fun. I am hoping to do a little junk journaling about the festival, and I would like to use this sticker, but it was really cool to meet her in person and just get the opportunity to talk about how much I really love her art. So that was super fun and was a success. I also was able to see a ton of really cool makers and sellers and a ton that were located in Washington and a lot that weren't. I was actually really surprised by how many vendors were located from out of the state. And of course, there were, the big ones, Madeline Tosh and Sorella, and, some of those bigger yarn companies, La Mercerie, of course. But I really, really loved how varied the showing was and how many really small designers and makers I was able to connect with. I found a single row counter for sale and it was not really my vibe. So I might try to make one, but at this point in time, I did not get a row counter. But I did find some yarn that did speak to me. So let's talk about what I did end up actually purchasing. Here it is. It is already in a bag because I'm trying to keep stuff as safe as possible just in case. But I did end up picking up 4 skeins. These are all from the same dyer maker. This is made by Haley Bailey, hand dyed in the Pacific Northwest. And all 4 of these are actually the same base. It is specifically a yarn called Happy Lint, which I really love. And as you can see, it is a fingering, maybe even slightly smaller weight yarn, kind of a mohair-esque quality to it with these really beautiful kind of neon neps. So specifically, it is 42% superwash merino, 32% superfine alpaca, 18% neon Donegal neps, 8% linen. And each one of these is 100 grams and 437 yards. I did buy it in 4 colorways. I'm hoping to use them all together. This one is Luna Moth, which is this really beautiful, like kind of mint green. Then there is Dahlia. This one is in a really beautiful pink. Scarlet Paintbrush, which is like a grapefruit color. And then the last one, this is called Pacific, which is in like kind of a dusty dark teal. Like I mentioned, I did have a goal not to buy any green or orange, and technically this is not green and orange. I would say this is teal and pink, which is quite close now that I'm saying that out loud, but it is not the same thing. And these were quite pricey. I am not gonna lie to you, these were quite pricey. Oh, really quickly, the sticker was $5, just for transparency. Each one of these was $36. It might have been one of the most expensive hanks that I could find, but every single time I passed this booth, I looked at these, I picked them up. There was one more colorway that was a green. It was sold out by the time that the festival was ending, so I did not end up picking that one up. Had it been there, I might have. Both of my friends were making fun of me the whole time because every booth we got to, I would go immediately to the greens and I would go immediately to the oranges. I mean, I have a type, very, very much so. So the fact that none of these were straight up green was good. So as you can see, I did buy 4 of them. They were $36 a piece. I think with tax, that came to about $160 total. So if we're rounding up, I spent about $165 at the Flock and Fiber Festival. I am really excited to use these. This is the kind of yarn that really inspires me. It is standardized in that all 4 of them are from the same dyer, all 4 of them are the same relative base. There was a sample where they were all knit up together and it was so beautiful. So I am hoping to use them all together and in a single project. Because there is so much yardage in these, I think I should have no trouble knitting up like a little short-sleeved cardigan. I could probably even get a sweater out of this. I think it's 1,700 meters in total. So, or excuse me, 1,700 yards in total, which is right around the range of like your standard sweater for my size specifically, probably a little more even. So I'm very, very excited about that. The other thing that I thought I could use this for that could be really great is like, you know, if you've been following along, I am still working on the melting shirt, which is fingering weight yarn held double. I don't know how much yarn I have. I have almost worked through an entire cake. Almost. It's really hard to tell how quickly I'll end up using it up because it's held double and because the yarn is so thin, kind of feels like it's like a never-ending cake, but I probably have, I don't know, about that much left. And I have 3 more of those cakes. I would say, slightly over halfway done with the back panel for the sweater. So if you're keeping track, that's a lot of other components I need, and I only have 3 cakes of this, so I was thinking it could be really fun to use this sporadically held double for things like the collar and the cuffs of the sleeves, maybe the button band, you know, that stuff that comes at the very end of the pattern. So we'll see how much yarn I have. I would prefer to do it all in the brown, but if not, I think this would be such a cool little way to color block this piece in a way that I would really like it. So this yarn will not be being used next or in one of my future projects unless the melting shirt I run out of yarn. But I am so excited to use it and I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. It did feel like, I mean, it was a splurge for sure. This is a lot to spend on yarn. I'm not gonna pretend like it's not. This was a really cool purchase. I'm really happy with this. I am so excited to knit this up. And that's it. That was my Seattle Flock yarn haul. And I hope if you have any yarn festivals coming up that you have the opportunity to take some time to go and see one. I really do think the community is the absolute best part about knitting, and it is so cool to see. There were so many alpine blooms at this one, and that pattern hasn't necessarily really spoken to me, but after seeing some people's renditions of it, it's kind of there in the back of my mind. So with all of that, thank you so much for watching. If you like me and you want to see more of me or my art, I would really love it if you would consider subscribing. Please also feel free to like the video and leave me a comment down below. But with all of that, I hope you have a great day or a great evening or wherever you may be, and I will see you in the next one.